So, we are continuing with Paranormal Parasites by Nick Redfern, and this is Chapter 7, Mind Monsters. And I'm pretty sure this is where we left off a couple weeks ago. And hopefully, you guys are enjoying this book because I'm going to get into some other ones. Probably end up putting all of these into a playlist of sorts so you guys can listen for enjoyment. I'm going to try to do less commentary, but just to introduce myself, my name is Tennille, and I am a transformational coach and also a narc coach, and I am focused on black women, black lesbians, black trans women who are 30 to 50 years old, who are getting out of narcissist relationships, toxic relationships, who have gone through a huge uh, shift in their life, and they're focused on ridding themselves of those toxic patterns, and they need somebody to guide them through. That is me. If you desire, I am also an empathic listener, and I have my links up in not in this description of this video, but if you just go to the main part of my channel, you'll find it. And you can also DM me too. So right now I'm doing 35 minutes for $40. And I also have a program, 8 weeks, 2 parts, from sealed to healed. But you do have to take those 2 parts together. That's the way that I just made it, because I want you to know who, what, when, where, and how, and why um, cluster B personalities exist, why they pretty much try and kill us. And I come from an occult spiritual perspective, because I am not just a life coach and a narc coach. I am also someone who, in their 40s, became homeless, survived 3 years on the streets that were forced on me, survived witchcraft attacks that threatened to take my life, and succeeded, unfortunately, in taking the life of my fur babies and my mother. And I still kept it pushing. And so I had to go through many dark nights of the soul. And unfortunately, we do the when we go through what we're supposed to go through, when we go on the hero's journey and we take up the cause for our purpose that, the ancestors are calling for, the Most High God is calling for, um, and we get through it. That which does the saying, that which does not kill you only makes you stronger, is absolutely correct. You may not look it on the outside. You may have gained 100 pounds back after losing it, right? You may have gotten from off the streets, but now you're still living in your car. You may have gotten fired from your job, and now you're facing eviction. You know, it's anything in the material realm can be solved and will be solved. But first seek ye the kingdom of God, and all things will be provided unto you. And that's what I learned. When I got tapped out of the matrix and I stopped being afraid of people taking my job. Right now, I'm faced with people trying to take my job, right? And because they want me to be afraid. They don't like the progress that I've made, because see, when we make progress, Phoenixes, that means that there's something wrong with them. When we tap out of those old patterns that had our or generational curses, toxic patterns or generational curses that have been throughout our bloodlines. So I say bloodlines because, our parents came together with different names. Okay, so there are multiple bloodlines that need to be healed, and that is our job. And I've said this before. Go listen to some of my older podcasts from probably like 2020, 2021, and go watch those, or listen to those. And that was a time where I was still trying to have, um, a little bit of intro and whatnot. But when the devil doesn't want you to get as mad because you've won, they're sore losers, and they can work through a cluster B personality, which has 8 demons ready front and center, to work with. Um, they're gonna keep coming to you. But I'm just grateful that I'm able to just reach out, and people will listen who need this, if just one person. And I'm grateful that I can be here for you guys. Um, Thank you, Purple Top. Miss you. Yeah. So anyway, if you want my services, or if you're interested, or if some of you know somebody who could use an empathic listener, the thing of it is, the difference between an empathic listener and garbage can is an empathic listener is going to listen and confirm what you're going through, maybe give some suggestions, but will not allow you just to dump on them. Okay, so I am not. I will refund your money in a heartbeat if I feel like I'm being used as a garbage can. Okay, so, and the 8 week program from sealed to healed is on Fiverr, and so as well as the empathic listener. So, if you guys want to go through there, that would be awesome. And let's get into this paranormal parasites by Nick Redfern and Mind Monsters. And so, I don't have this in a playlist yet, but if you guys want to go and listen, all right. Well, go ahead and go to the Fiverr, hun. Purple Top, if you want it, or DM me, okay? Because I can do it in groups. If more than one of you sign up for the From Sealed to Healed, which is it's 8 week course, you get one-on-one coaching from me by once a week, and we're gonna do that through Zoom, and you get to work from a workbook. So and that's downloadable. It's pieces of it that's downloadable, and we can go from there. Okay. But just let me know, DM me, okay? So, okay, let's go. So, mind monsters. Now we come to one of the strangest of all the many and varied supernatural creatures that fed upon us. It goes by two names, the tulpa and the thought form, although they are one and the same. The concept of the tulpa began centuries ago when the culture and beliefs of Tibetan Buddhists, within the cultures and beliefs of Tibetan Buddhists. In essence, a tulpa is a creature that is created and driven by the power of human imagination. If that sounds strange, well, yes, it is. Essentially, it goes like this. If you focus your attention on a particular image, let's say for the sake of argument, that of a fiery eyed, leathery winged gargoyle, you can give it some semblance of reality and eventually an independent existence. You lie down on your bed late at night when and where you won't be disturbed, and you focus intently on your legendary monster of choice. You carefully visualize its form, those huge wings, its malevolent face, and its clawed hands. Perhaps you even give it a long and powerful tail. You focus on the image of the beast flying high above the rooftops of your own town in the dead of night, and you repeat that process night after night, week after week, and maybe even month after month. You may even utilize meditative techniques to allow you to enter altered states of mind, which will serve to amplify the imagery even more. One day, reports suddenly begin to surface in your town of what sounds just like the very beast that you have been so deeply focused on in the depths of your mind and imagination. In essence, you have successfully created a monster solely by thinking it into existence. Now, hear this. Now, in essence, you have successfully created a monster solely by thinking it into existence. And this is my platform. This is what I have been talking to you, Phoenixes, about. I'm not going to talk too much throughout this reading. But when you are dealing with cluster B personalities and their tendency to obsess over um, over you and getting you under control, right, is because they're delusional to think that they are the master, that you are somehow their their prey, their property. Okay, so when you're dealing with these people, I try and tell everybody, I do tell people that the reason why you may leave the cluster B personality, but they are still clinging to you because they have trauma bonded with you by causing you trauma. That way that they could, because if you had been protecting yourself, you had been protecting yourself beforehand, and you allowed somebody to come into your space, not knowing exactly what this person, this thing was. And when they traumatized you, that left them and gave them an opening to insert their etheric double into you. So that way you were married in some sense. You see what I'm saying? When we talk about spirit wives and spirit husbands, now there's an official way that somebody will bond you to a contract illegally with a spirit wife or a spirit husband. And as long as you've done, I don't have the which is what I've been saying, because sometimes you get these people who are delusional, which is what a cluster B, a narcissist is. They're extremely delusional. And it's their imagination. They fantasize to the point of making it a reality. Right? So if I reject, well, no, I don't agree with that. We're still married. And so she will fantasize about me and her being in a relationship and me providing her for what her desires without me even being present. And sometimes it can be so intense that you start feeling sensations that you shouldn't be feeling because you are not with anybody or nobody's in the room, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So and I know that it throws a lot of people off. It's like, well, how can this person have so much power? It's not that the person themselves has that power. It's the demons that reside within them that gave them that power. And it's not that they gave them that power, but they are utilizing them because their weakness and their trauma is now being exploited because they marinated in bitterness and anger and in revenge, that it gave the devil a foothold, and they utilize it now. Okay? So just think about this. I'll read this chapter, this paragraph again. Then one day reports suddenly begin to surface in your town of what sounds just like the very beast that you have been so deeply focusing on in the depths of your mind and imagination. In essence, you have successfully created a monster solely by thinking it into existence. No, the monster is not the flesh and blood variety, but it lives and thrives all the same. Pardon me. Pardon me. And you alone are responsible for it. A wholly fictional entity is now active and living in our world. Food for thought. Given the theme of this book, how supernatural entities use us as their fuel, two important questions need answering. How exactly does the tulpa feed on us, and why is it so driven to feed on us? A fully mature thought form cannot exist without one particular thing: a strong and widespread belief in its existence. In other words, the tulpa does not feed on us physically. Instead, it dines on our beliefs. As more and more people come to believe that the creature is real, it gains greater and more intense foothold in our world and becomes more and more corporeal in nature. If interest in and acceptance of the monster attains huge heights, another issue surfaces. Eventually, the creature is no longer reliant on the beliefs of its creator to survive. In the early stages, a tulpa will, will certainly hover around its creator. As it grows together, as it grows stronger, though, the tulpa leaves its moorings behind, its beginnings behind, and effectively draws in the beliefs of anyone and everyone that accepts it's real. The disturbing side of all this is that in almost all situations, when the tulpa is fully energized by the collective belief of not just hundreds of people, but thousands of, or maybe even millions, it takes on a deeply malevolent streak. It rapidly becomes evil and dangerous. On top of that, to ensure that the belief in the tulpa continues, the monsters of the mind need to be continually seen. After all, if people don't see them, they forget about them. And when that happens, the tulpas eventually crumble, fragment, and disintegrate into irreversible nothingness, in very much the same way that we cannot survive without food and water. The tulpa cannot survive without basking in that collective belief of untold numbers of people. In that sense, the tulpa doesn't just want us to believe in it, it needs its junkie like fix of belief, and it needs it constantly. So think about this. When you, one that comes to mind that a lot of the witches and warlocks, or the main demon that the witches and warlocks um, conjure up to monitor me or attach itself to me is Santa Muerte. And now Santa Muerte is the creation from the Catholic Church, was to proselytize the Mexican natives to into Christianity. And so they made her a demon. That is her, what she was initially. Okay, so so when you're telling, and just like this chapter said, when you have millions of people, and her popularity grew in 2020 in the 2000s, and came to America. I think they said that like there was like 250 million or something like that that were now. And I mean, you hear talk of it, and I see it on TikTok all the time when people are alive with the Santa Muerte statue, and it's dark and it's demonic. Anything that is of light and of love does not need you to have red lights and, black smoke and all that other kind of stuff. I mean, because I mean, if you think about that, what she requires is a sacrifice, okay? And that's usually people. So Santa Muerte requires you to sacrifice something. Give her something in return for riches. Give her something in return for getting more hours on your job. That's is the truth about Santa Muerte. But I noticed that a lot of people um, who I see on the TikTok and they're on the lives and stuff, I don't make any comments because I can't change anybody's belief. If you believe and you're going to infuse this fake God, um, and give it life through your yearnings, through your bitterness, because most of, I mean, I can't change that. So, um, she, she has been used to by the cartel, by the gangs. I mean, you know what I mean? She's being used by people who are antisocial. Antisocial meaning I'm not going to follow anybody's rules. Now you can kind of say, oh well, some of us have that antisocial trait, but it's not when we don't want to follow a rule, it's because it's doing harm to us. If I give my baby a prescription that has been recalled anyway, right? Or just because somebody said, oh well, it's really harmless, you can still give it. No, I'm not going to give my baby that if others have reported that their babies were harmed. Like there was a, for like fur babies were being harmed by a certain type of heartwormer or a flea and tick thing, hearts, I believe it was, and they stopped giving it because it's like people were actually dying. Their cats and dogs were actually dying, right? So that's just the common sense of it. But right now in today's age, which is why I do my program and provide services, is because if you really want them, because I'm not a breastfeeder, but a lot of people still, even in this woke, it's like I don't know why we have this woke generation. There is nobody that's woke. It's just people regurgitating what has already been talked about generation after generation after generation after generation. And that's, you know what I mean? That's truly what it is. And so they never push forward. When you truly tap out is when then you can move forward, right? It's supposed to be linear. It's not supposed to be circular, right? So anyway, that's my 2 cents on it. So let's get to the next chapter or subchapter. Summoning a spider god and living to regret it. I have had this thing on me too. So that's what I'm saying. It makes me a great coach because I have had several cults from Sacramento um, try and get me. And then I think I was hoed out really in the spiritual realm. I think they hoed me out to everyone who was sick to get healing, right? So when people try and deny that we have gifts and that or you deny it within yourself, think that, you know, if you weren't that boss, if you weren't that light being, then people wouldn't be trying to possess you and siphon from you. Because when people know that you see through them, they're going to force themselves on you. Okay, so anyway, summoning a spider god and living to regret it. It's time now to take a look at the case of a man named Richard Freeman. It's a case that perfectly demonstrates how a tulpa can be created and how the outcome can be a dark and can be dark and harrowing for everyone involved. Formerly a head keeper at England's Twycross Zoo, Freeman has a deep interest in the field of cryptozoology, which is the study of unknown animals such as Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster, Mothman, and Chupacabra, and the abominable snowman. Freeman is convinced that many, such as cryptids, are flesh and blood animals that the domains of science and zoology have yet to categorize and classify. He also believes, though, that at least some such creatures may well be tulpas. To try and prove the point, back in the 1990s, Freeman set out to create his own very own abominable monster. As a goth and a dedicated fan of the writing of the likes of Clark Ashton Smith and H.P. Lovecraft, Freeman chose to make his particular tool of choice a huge, horrific spider of truly malevolent proportions. Freeman's inspiration for his creation was Smith's spider deity, Atlach-Nacha. It appears in Smith's story, The Seven Geeses, which was published in 1934. Atlach-Nacha is described as a terrifying, malevolent arachnid that has a somewhat human like hairy face and huge spidery limbs. It lives in a dark subterranean world filled with winding and near endless caves that can be found far below the fictional Mount Vormithradrith. Sorry if I messed that up. Interestingly, Smith's monster straddled two domains, that of the dream state and that of the real world, which is exactly what the tulpa does. Two, it's a construct of the mind that very seldom stays there, all of which brings us back to Richard Freeman. It was the summer of 1997, and at the time, Freeman was a student at the University of Leeds in England, where he was working toward a degree in zoology. When Freeman decided to try to create a tulpa version of Atlach Nacha, he took the whole thing very seriously. Certainly, a vital key to ensuring a high degree of success. He enlisted the help of several friends at the university. One and all set about constructing what can only be described as an altar to the monstrous spider thing in the cellar of the house where they were all living. As well as constructing the altar, Freeman and his friends took a large piece of cloth, painted it to look like a vast spider's web, and hung it up in the cellar. Then, at the foot of the altar, they began a complex series of rites and prayers, all designed with one goal in mind: to bring Clark Ashton Smith's monster to life, a sort of life at least. The group collectively concentrated on the image of the hideous spider deity for weeks and weeks, and as is so often the case in such circumstances, the project worked. From the mysterious depths of the mind, something horrendous came forth. It was late one night, roughly a month after their experiment began, that Freeman went into the old dark cellar with the intent of trying to further enhance their tulpa, and was confronted by something hideous and almost heart stopping. To his horror, Freeman could see on one of the stone walls of the cellar a large shadowy image. It was that of a huge spider, crawling and creeping slowly along the walls. Its 8 legs and bulbous body stood out prominently. Freeman was frozen to the spot for a few moments. Fortunately, though, he managed to break the spell of fear-driven paralysis and then overwhelmed and that had overwhelmed and gripped him, and he quietly, carefully backed up the stairs and exited the room, being sure to lock it behind him. Clearly, the fact that the spider was only seen in the form of a shadow suggests that while the process of raising a tulpa version of Atlach Nacha was certainly working, it was going to take much more work to ensure that the creature became fully formed. That was destined not to happen, though. Worried about the possibility that they really had opened the genie's bottle, so to speak, the group of friends decided that something had to be done. They chose to end the experiment lest it spiral wildly out of control. It was probably a very wise move. The altar was destroyed, as was the web like cloth. And most important of all, the friends did their best not to think about Atlachnacha, which admittedly was not exactly the easiest thing to do. If evidently, though, the process works and the tulpa was exterminated before it, and the chance it had the chance to attain a greater sense of reality and wreak havoc. Now it's time to look at the tulpa version of a comic book hero. A comic book creation becomes more, much more. Alan Moore is an acclaimed comic book writer and the man who was responsible for Watchmen and V for Vendetta, both of which were made into hit movies. Then there is John Constantine, Moore's most loved and popular character from the 1980s. The character became a hit on the big screen in 2005 when the well received movie Constantine was released in cinemas on a worldwide scale. I absolutely loved Constantine. I still love it. It wasn't long at all after came to fruition in Alan Moore's mind without much doubt a tulpa form. It was an otherwise normal day in London, England, and Moore was eating lunch in a cafe in Westminster when none other than John Constantine, the comic book creation of Moore himself, walked right past him. In Moore's own words, which are cited in Jim McGrath's online blog in a post called Conjuring Constantine from August 2012, he looked exactly like John Constantine. He looked at me, stared at me straight in the eyes, smiled, nodded almost conspiratorially, and then just walked off around the corner to the other part of the snack bar. With his nerves jangled to a major degree, Moore debated whether or not he should follow his creation come to life. Moore chose not to. It's almost certainly not a coincidence, given the nature of the strange affair, that Moore is not just a comic book writer. Yeah, he is also a practicing chaos magician. It just so happens that chaos magic involves the conjuring and creating of fictional characters, giving them some semblance of reality. Subconsciously, suspects that one suspects this is exactly what Moore did. He created a temporary tulpa of Constantine, and having done so, Moore was duly paid a visit of a truly extraordinary kind. Perhaps had the story been spread far and wide, causing belief in the Constantine tulpa to take off big time, we would have seen the entity feeding on that collective belief and thriving very nicely. That it was not seen again, however, is a good indication that its life was destined to be a short one, a life that could not be sustained because of a lack of strong enough belief. Ha, very interesting. All right, next subsection, the skinny on the slender man. There is very little doubt that the most powerful tulpa in today's world is the Slender Man, an internet sensation that is part man in black, part ghoul, and part Lovecraftian nightmare. The story of the pale, faceless, black-suited, tentacle waving monster dates back to 2009. That was the year in which a man named Knudsen created the Slender Man purely as a piece of entertainment and nothing more for the Something Awful website. Con- Knudsen skillfully manipulated a couple of black and white photos and inserted his creepy creation into them, showing the Slender Man among groups of children whom in the tales he preys upon in disturbing fashion. In no time at all, certainly surprising Eric Cudson, the Slender Man went from being a bit of harmless net based fun to a full blown meme. Blogs were created in his name, fictional stories were posted online to further expand the legend of the creature, and his devoted following of largely young children and teenagers grew at a phenomenal and extraordinary rate. The entertainment angle was most definitely eclipsed in 2014 when, on May 31st, two 12-year-old girls from Waukesha, Wisconsin, attacked and almost killed a former school friend. She was stabbed close to 20 times in a frenzied and furious attack. It was all done in the name of the Slender Man, who the two girls believed would allow them entry into a spooky mansion in the woods as a result of their planned sacrifice. Wow. Thankfully, the girl who was attacked survived and made a full recovery. Both the girls who committed the attack pleaded guilty, but were found not guilty on grounds of mental illness. When the story of the attack got out, it became not just local or even national news, it became worldwide news. The result was the millions of people had now heard of the Slender Man. And guess what happened? That's right, the Slender Man began to be seen in the real world. Eric Cudinson's internet creation had, just like Richard Freeman's Spider God and Alan Moore's John Constantine, come to life in the form of a tulpa. The massive belief that so many kids had in the Slender Man allowed it to take hold of our reality. The Slender Man didn't just dine on belief, it totally feasted on it. Gorged might be even better words to use. Since the events of 2014, witnesses claim to have seen the Slender Man in their rooms in the dead of night, which is the Slender Man's typical time to surface and hunt. Others have heard it calling to them on their laptops and iPhones. More than a few have encountered it in dark and shadowy woods, which is the preferred area for the Slender Man to lurk in. There are even accounts of the Slender Man invading and manipulating people's dreams and turning them into full-blown nightmares. To say that the Slender Man is the definitive tulpa is not wrong. In fact, it's right on the money. Its massive following has ensured that, and right now, there doesn't appear to be any way to deconstruct the tulpa version of Eric Knudson's creation. Such is its immense power. By feeding on the belief that of what may easily amount to millions of kids, the Slender Man is all but indestructible. And of course, while it is very easy to think about the Slender Man, it's extremely difficult not to think about it, particularly so when the matter is placed in your mind, which is what I have just done to you, the reader. In fact, just by reading these words, you may be inadvertently making the Slenderman tulpa more powerful by the moment, as it voraciously devours belief upon belief. Gratefully, I do not believe. When emotions run wild. Related to the phenomena of the tulpa is that of the poltergeist. The word itself is German, but in English it means noisy spirit. The poltergeist is a dangerous and violent entity that engages in hostile activity, torments those in the home where the activity is taking place, and can place the victims of its attacks in downright danger. The poltergeist is somewhat different from the average disembodied spirit, however. Faced with the likes of furniture moving across one's living room, windows shattering, beds raising off the floor, books flying off the shelves, and electrical items blowing out, it's perfectly natural to ascribe all of this chilling activity to an evil supernatural entity. Things aren't quite as straightforward as that, however, which you'll now see. It's a fact that the vast majority of all poltergeist activity revolves around one particular person in the targeted family. Typically, it's a young girl, either prepubescent or going through puberty. One particular school of thought suggests that certain supernatural entities are attracted to young girls. That does not appear to be the case when it comes to the issue of poltergeists, though. In an article titled Poltergeists, the Crystal Links website states, due to hormonal and emotional changes in the teenager's body, negative energy may be thrust outwardly, sometimes moving or destroying objects telekinetically. In other words, what we have here is a case of young girls unknowingly causing the very phenomenon that we assume have external components dictating and directing them, such as a ghost, a demon, or perhaps even one of the shadow people. On rare occasions, the girls may spontaneously manifest the image of a ghostly figure, albeit not from some hellish, unearthly realm, but from the depths of her dark imagination and subconsciousness. And the greater the level of that negative energy that crystal links refers to, the greater the power and substance that is given to the creation of the imagination. So, what we have here is a chaotic spiraling situation. It begins in the throes of the mind, but can rapidly become externalized in just about the worst ways conceivable. As for the casual factor, the young girl, she typically finds herself feeling weaker and weaker as the incidents and experiences grow in number. It's no wonder the girl is unknowingly discharging precious human energy into her immediate environment, energy that she cannot do without. The result is exactly what we have seen in so many other examples in this book. The central person in the saga gets sick and weak as the freakish phenomenon increases. In essence, the girl is destroying her very own health by expelling the essential energies that her body requires, energies which then wreak havoc in the home. Fortunately, in many cases, poltergeist activity will come to a sudden halt after a period of days, weeks, or even months. Why? Because the hormonal imbalance that we all go through in puberty have leveled out in the involved young person, and the turmoil and emotional highs and lows have begun to lessen. As they lessen, so does the amount of energy directed to keep the poltergeist alive, to the point where finally the energy has dissipated and the poltergeist is no more. So, whew, all right, that was pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. Let me see how long this one's going to be. That's not too bad. So I'll read one more. This one is, let me get back to it. This is chapter 8, the Jinn. Of all the energy based supernatural entities that see us as their food, none are more feared and revered in equal amounts than the Middle Eastern Jinn. They are ancient and powerful beings that should be avoided at all costs. Although at times they can be friendly and helpful, the jinn are also dangerous and manipulative, just like so many other paranormal parasites that need us as a form of sustenance. Without a doubt, one of the most learned researchers in the field of energy based entities is Rosemary Ellen Gulley, whose books include The Vengeful Jinn, the Jinn Connection. In an online article, Facts About the Jinn, Gulley says this of their strange feeding habits. They can eat human food when they take human form, but our food does not sustain them. It gives them pleasure. They can absorb the essence of food and things like the molecules from tobacco smoke, which provide enjoyment. Their main source of nourishment is the absorption of energy from their life forms. The best is the draining of a soul, but is difficult to do and is considered unlawful. It is, however, practiced by certain powerful renegade jinn. The vampiric absorption of the life force can be quite detrimental to people and cause health problems. With that all said, there before we get to the matter of how and why the jinn need us, the particular nature of the energy they absorb from us, let's first take a look at the history of these enigmatic, powerful creatures and our uneasy relationship. From Satan to Shaitan. According to ancient lore, the jinn existed long before we did, tens of thousands of years before us, in fact. The story of the jinn is detailed in the pages of the Quran. It is the sacred book of Islamic teachings, which which those of the Muslim faith believe is the word of the Most High God or Allah, as he is known in their religion. Although there are significant differences between the Bible and the Quran, there are a lot of deep similarities too. The Bible teaches that God created the human race in the form of Adam and Eve. Eve having allegedly been crafted from one of Adam's ribs. In the world of Islam, Allah brought Adam into being too, but he did much more than that, as well as bringing the human race and the angels to life. Allah also created supernatural entities that, in terms of power and stature, were right up there with the angels. They were, if you have not already guessed, the mighty jinn of old. Things went wrong for the jinn, drastically so, when Allah insisted that they display deep reverence to Adam. The angels were ordered to do likewise, and while the angels dutifully did what they were told, the jinn most assuredly did not. They chose to vehemently go against the word of Allah. For the jinn, this proved to be utterly disastrous. They were unceremoniously flung out of the realm of heaven. Their only chance of retaining some degree of their original powerful status is when Judgment Day finally comes along. That, we are told, is when all of the jinn will be placed before Allah and given the opportunity to make things right. Until then, and under the law of Allah, the jinn are free to do as they please, which includes feeding on us, and, if they choose, even forever obliterating us from existence. While the jinn can, to a degree, encourage people to perform sinful acts, they cannot literally force us to commit murder and violence. We are still very much the deciders. The mightiest of all the jinn is Iblis. In fact, he is the overlord of the jinn. His name translates into English as despair. In essence, Iblis can be compared to Satan in the sense that one of his prime directives is to lure the human race to the dark side. The parallel between the devil and Iblis is made even more obvious by the fact that in Islamic lore, Iblis's alternative name is Shaitan, which only serves to amplify the satanic themed links between Iblis and the devil of the Bible. Pardon me. Pardon me. Iblis, being the ultimate jinn, has given rise to the theory that the rest of the jinn hordes are the equivalents of the Bible's demons. Certainly, there are uncanny similarities between both stories. It was Iblis himself who ordered his fellow jinn to disobey Allah's order to bow down before Adam. Iblis's argument was that he and the rest of the jinn were superior beings. Oops. Were superior beings. Uh-oh. Formed from smokeless fire, while Adam was a lowly being of nothing but mere dirt. Iblis saw himself and his kind far above the human race when it came to the issue of stature. Iblis was right about the power of the jinn versus that of us. And unlike us, the jinn have massively long lifespans. From our perspective, the jinn are practically immortal. Iblis, like all jinn, is a shape-shifting entity with the ability to take on multiple forms, including that of a large black dog, an elemental, an extraterrestrial, and a snake. The jinn can also negotiate dimensions as easily as we change channels on our televisions. So, in that sense, yes, the jinn are our superiors and masterful manipulators of us too. It must be said that today the nature of the jinn has been hugely dumbed down in the world of Western entertainment. They have become known as genies. The genie in the genie, an entity that most people expect to see in movies, on TV shows, and in kids' cartoons. With its attendant three wishes, the genie is seen as a wholly mythical, harmless, magical thing. The truth, however, is just about as far away from that image as it's possible to get. Forget Aladdin and his lamp. The true jinn are almost the most fearsome and fearless entities that can intrude on our world and wreak havoc and mayhem as they see fit. Let's take a closer look at the lives and domains of these unearthly things. The mysterious plasma. One of the most intriguing things about the jinn is that, as we have seen, they were born out of smokeless fire, but how could a form of fire feed on human energy and have intelligence, a physical form, and the ability to manipulate our minds? Well, the answer is simple. Fire just cannot form the incredible feats that the jinn are said to carry out. In all likelihood, the reference to the jinn having their or their origins in fire is a distortion. But of what? Rosemary Ellen Geely believes she knows. It all revolves around something called plasma. For those, oh, stop it. Sorry. For those who may not know what exactly plasma is, consider the words of the Southwest Research Institute, SRI, on the nature of plasma from an article titled Plasma, the Fourth State of Matter. A plasma is a hot ionized gas consisting of approximately equal numbers of positive charged ions and negatively charged ions. The characteristics of plasma are significantly different from those of ordinary neutral gases, so that plasma are considered a distinct fourth state of matter. The Illinois based qualitative reasoning group of Northwestern University states the following in What is Plasma? Plasma is a cloud of protons, neurons, and electrons, which are where all the electrons have come loose from their respective molecules and atoms, giving the plasma the ability to act as a whole rather than a bunch of atoms. A plasma is more like a gas than any of the other states of matter because the atoms are not in constant contact with each other, but it behaves differently from a gas. It has what scientists call collective behavior. This means that the plasma can flow like a liquid or it can contain areas that are like clumps of atoms sticking together. Rosemary Ellen Gilly believes and is probably correct in her conclusions that the jinn are plasma based entities, which in all likelihood led to the distorted legend that they were the product of fire. She also concludes that the hellish and heavenly realms described in the Bible and the Quran were really dimensions of existence very, very different from our 3D reality. Yeah, I can dig that. In a December 2014 article written by phys.org and entitled The Universe of 10 Dimensions, Matt Williams says that aside from other three dimensions, scientists believe that there may be many more. In fact, the theoretical framework of superstring theory posits that the universe exists in 10 different dimensions. These different aspects are what govern the universe, the fundamental forces of nature, and all the elementary particles contained within. Might such remains as might such realms as heaven and hell really be two of many more dimensions beyond ours? Don't bet against it, and don't. Oh, something had to reconnect. Sorry, guys. Hold on just a minute here. All right. So, okay, Wi-Fi's on, but for some reason it went back. Okay, so let me go back to this. The lives of the jinn. Ancient lore tells us that although the jinn are very different from us, certainly in terms of their makeup, they are not too dissimilar in some other ways. The world of Islam maintains that the jinn have almost unending lives. Although they are not literally immortal, not even the jinn can beat the reaper forever. They marry, they have offspring, and like us, they are both male and female jinn. Although the mysterious planes of existence that the jinn inhabit are very different from ours, the actual space they inhabit is the same. In other words, you could be sitting at home reading a book and not realize that you are being eyed carefully by a dangerous jinn that has invaded your space and can see your every move, but that is effectively still within its own dimension. When they leave their dimensional planes and enter our domain, the jinn are said to dwell in caves, in deep and winding tunnels, and in the remains of crumbled old structures. That's hard to believe, actually. Particularly in the heart of the Middle East. And it's in the early hours of the morning when they are most active in our world. Also, like us, the jinn love music. Singing and whistling are two of their primary ways of entertaining themselves. If you wake in the middle of the night and you hear disembodied whistling or the vague tones of faraway enchanting and hypnotic music, you may well have a jinn in your adobe. They prefer Middle Eastern music and that of ancient India too, particularly sound of a sitar. The jinn are also said to love dogs, which reportedly can see them even when we can't, as can donkeys. The jinn's love of dogs mostly does not extend to us, though. However, they will on occasion offer the targets of their torture a gift, a goal, or a good fortune. Almost certainly, this is where the tables of the three wishes originated, with an ancient knowledge and tradition that one could make a deal with the jinn. Like most such pacts, though, it's very seldom that good ever comes from them. The jinn also have the ability to intrude on and even enter the minds of those they target. Essentially, we're talking about something akin to demonic possession. People can be made to perform all manner of terrible acts that might be put down as mental illness or the result of an evil psychopathic mind. That might not be the case, though. The person may be used as a vessel by the jinn. Why? Because the jinn enjoy manipulating and tormenting us. It really is that simple and terrifying, too. On occasion, the jinn will not exhibit dangerous or even deadly behavior. Sometimes their actions are solely manipulative, even bordering on what almost amounts to gameplay. They may move a household item to a new place, baffling people as to how such a thing has happened. They can command electricity, even thunderstorms. They may cause your microwave oven to explode. Your phone may briefly fail to work right at the same time that you hear the curious whistling in your home, screwing around with us for no good reason beyond the fact that they get some form of delight out of it all, is at the heart of what motivates the jinn's interactions with us. Illness, both mental and physical, typifies encounters with the jinn too. And none of us should forget the warning words of Rosemary Ellen Gilly on the matter of the jinn. Their main source of nourishment is the absorption of energy from life forms. On this latter point from Rosemary Ellen Gilly, it's worth noting the experience of Emily. Her 1999 encounter with a shadowy entity in her San Antonio, Texas apartment is highly suggestive of an interaction with a jinn, possibly even several. That Emily became fascinated by the jinn phenomena just a few weeks before very strange activity began in her home is another pointer suggesting that by both reading and thinking about the jinn, she opened the kind of doorway that most of us would prefer stayed shut. Emily says that only days into reading a second book about the jinn, she began to see out of the corner of her eyes small shadow-like figures lurking behind the corners of the couch, peering from behind doorways, and even tugging on the duvet of her bed at night. She experienced endless electricity outages and her microwave stopped working, as did the electric alarm clock in her bedroom. On top of that, Emily had several nightmares of a jinn in which the creature sucked the energy out of her in a mouth-to-mouth fashion, almost as if the jinn was kissing the energy out of her. which is exactly how Emily described it. A spine tingling image, to be sure. All right. So the next one is soul stealers, but I'm going to stop it there. So I find that very strange because when we think of shadowy, shadowy figures, my spirit mom told me about them, and because I said I see them, because we were comparing what type of supernatural encounters we've had. and so, and so she told me some of hers, I told her some of mine, and she would explain them to me because I was a novice. I came from a Christian background, and but I'd always seen and experienced different things, and I'd hear terms, and I think, okay, I understand that, but I've never been in it so deep until now, and I find it relieving, but also scary, because when you realize the depths of how the depths of realms and dimensions that there are, and the depths other people will go to, in human form, to hold us hostage or to destroy us. Like, it's still bizarre, even though I understand that a narcissist can become, absolutely livid that they did not crush somebody to the point where, like I said, I still have stalkers. I still have these narcissists that still screw with me. I still have them. They're still around. But I also still have one that both of them have always been projecting onto me. When I say, and that's why I talk about fragmented spirits. I got to find that old article where a Christian man is talking about, he had to go to his friend and ask him, hey, are you astral projecting towards me? They have another term for it, but I did it on a TikTok live. I read the article, but he says, yeah, I'm just checking on you, I'm doing this, and he had to block him because it was so real. So when we're talking about people being able to go into different dimensions in their minds and create different, multiple light bodies. And when I saw this ad on this topic on TikTok, where a young black female said, I can go in and make different light bodies for myself, and we can go all over. And people thought that I was crazy when I was telling them that the narcissist sex offender that had been stalking me didn't have to come to me, because she would literally astral project herself. She would put, I was living in a hotel, and she would literally come through the bathroom. I was in the shower one time, and I could feel this murderer, like pure, unadulterated, unfiltered, like murder, like this person was wondering what I was doing. I couldn't go back into the shower after that. Here I am, I'm having a great shower, I'm doing all, and I feel this presence. And I literally, that's not the only thing about feeling a presence. I saw her shadow walking past me. Like this was her territory, like I was cheating on her or something. I've never been with this woman. So you see, we have to be prepared. So what I was doing, I was praying, I was fasting, I was chanting my mantra, which we are going to have I'm going to do a whole new program on mantras and the benefits of chanting your mantra. These are Hindu Vedic mantras. They got mantras for planets. They got mantras to help you with addictions. They got mantras to ward off demonic spirits like jinn and the like. Like, I'm going to make a t-shirt that says there's a mantra for that. Like, seriously, and that is literally what saved my life, besides my own, relationship with the Most High God. And then, really working with my soul tribe and meeting my spirit guides. You know what I mean? All the things that I was told, because was brought up in religion, that were demonic and stuff. It's like, well, no, not knowing makes me susceptible to demons. Knowing enables me to get the tools and the weapons of spiritual warfare to combat. Then that's what's made the people that the creatures, whatever you want to call them, that I'm still dealing with, because they don't want their comeuppance. And I've said this before, When you do the work, like I got from sealed to healed, when you guys do that 2-part program with me and you're serious about it, I can lead you to water. I can't make you drink. You can talk about the price and all that other kind of stuff, but if you don't want to do it, that's, and I did it by myself. I did it with God. You know what I'm saying? I'm here so you have support, because when you need to cry, you don't have to cry yourself to sleep like I had to. I held my pity real close. I mean, like when I say I did this by myself, because what does a narcissist do? A narcissist will isolate you, make you financially dependent on them, make sure that you don't have that everybody that you come in contact with so suddenly thinks that you're crazy. So that's why I'm reading these books, because I want something to kind of to set off in your minds. Oh yeah, I remember that. And then go with it, allow God to show you something different. Because it's not Satan that's saying, I ask, and you shall find, seek and ye shall find, right? So when I ask the question, God, why? Show me what this is. How can I defend myself against this, right? Then God would say, okay, so go here. Then this book would pop up, this channel would pop up, this author would pop up, you know? So I know I'm talking to my soul tribe, and that you guys are going to enjoy these books, but regular people who are just existing, don't get it, because they're not affected. Because why? They're like RPG players, you know what I mean? They're just like, oh, what do you call those players that you just, like, you go to the shopkeeper says the same damn thing. They're not, you know what I mean? And there's times where you you kind of wake up and you realize, ooh, that is where we're at, right? So we get, I am creating a community for us, because we are in this world and not of it. And so, what better way than to join Phoenix's Rising Academy and become a part of a community with a plethora of information, a wealth of information, for us to be able to say, okay, I did this and this is what worked. It's not that I didn't defeat the narcissists in my life. It's not that they weren't defeated. It's just that they're sore losers, and they know that my ships are coming in. When they know that your ships are coming in, they're going to constantly try and get at you. Like this person, this creature, this disgusting thing, you know, um, they don't want to let it go. Like I said, they're sore losers, and many of them have too much time on their hands. Why? Because narcissists are always going to get somebody else to do their work for them. That cluster B personality, that narcissist, that sociopath, that psychopath, that antisocial, that histrionic, that borderline personality, that bipolar, you know, that they're going to get somebody to do what they need to do for themselves, and then they're going to take the credit for it. And they're mad because they can't get credit for your hard work. They can't. They're not going to ever reap the benefits of doing evil. They're not, you know. Um, but the jinn, I have to say that I'm kind of fond, because I have some shape shifting ancestors that have loving ancestors. Pardon me. And I felt like this was kind of talking to me. Like one of the ancestors was like, "Look, this is what we do for you." So I'm like, okay. And then when they said indie, because I listen to all types of music, but I really like, meditative music and stuff like that. Just anything to, because when you have CPTSD, it's like you want to, you want the calm, right? You want the calm. So check me out on TikTok if you haven't, guys. I got two different uh, what is that called? Oh, channels, because they blocked me from live because I outed the sex offender, narcissistic sociopath that is stalking me, and she watches me on online. So anyway, I had to make a new channel so I can go live with you guys, and hopefully reconnect with my soul tribe again. So I love you guys. Thank you so much for listening. If you want some services, empathic listening, if you want to do the From Sealed to Healed program, 2-part, 8-week course, that's a mixture. Go to my link in the my channel, my main channel, the kind of storefront channel. on my YouTube and click on the Fiverr icon, and you'll see everything that I'm offering. All right. And just give me a like or thumbs up, subscribe, anything just to keep get this channel out of shadow banning. And remember, your blessings are in your ashes, phoenixes. Rise.